Hello, everyone. My name is Mary Montgomery. I'm an education consultant with Pennsylvania Early Intervention Technical Assistance. You'll also hear me refer to this as EITA. Early Intervention Technical Assistance provides training and technical assistance to local infant, toddler, and preschool early intervention programs throughout the state. In this webinar, I'm going to introduce you to our EITA online learning portal, and more importantly, share some of the materials and resources you may want to use to enhance your curriculum. So let's get started. You can access the portal by going to eita-pa.org. The resources you'll find here are for adults who work with and support children ages birth to school age with developmental delays or disabilities and their families. These resources are beneficial to early childhood professionals and home visiting staff who support all families and children, including those with delays and disabilities. In addition, we provide a number of resources for families, and you'll see that throughout the portal. Let's begin by looking at the home page. At the top of the home page, you'll find links to the professional development page, the professionals page, the families page, and our EITA partners. Under the image at the top of the home page, you'll find some highlighted content and training or other resources. These items typically change quarterly, so you'll want to check back often to see what's new. Just below these highlights, you'll find a scrolling panel with our 10 topic of interest pages. These include things like assistive technology, early language and literacy, inclusion, and social emotional, just to name a few. You'll see all of them here, and while we won't have time to look at each of them, we will look at one or two to give you a sense of the type of materials and resources you'll find on these pages. As you move to the bottom of the home page, you'll find our Twitter feed, where you can read our recent posts and link out to see more. We encourage you to follow us on Twitter and share our posts with others. It's a good way to stay up to date with what's new on the portal. Another way to stay up to date with what's new on the portal is to subscribe to the Portal to Practice. The EITA Portal to Practice is a monthly publication that provides information on new or highlighted resources and events. Here's a recent publication. You can see that we highlighted a new job aid for service coordinators, some resources for families and professionals supporting children with hearing loss and deafness, some resources for supporting dual language learners during COVID-19, some resources to support families during COVID-19, and finally, a reminder that an early intervention social emotional evaluation course is available. Let's head back up to the professional development link at the top of the homepage. When you access our professional development page, you'll find all of our courses and job aids listed in alphabetical order. Courses focus on complex topics, typically include multiple presentations or lessons, follow-up activities, and may include assignments. Most of our courses take about 3 hours to complete. All of our courses offer some type of credit. Job aids are designed to develop skills or share information and/or policy guidance on a specific topic. Most job aids take 15 to 20 minutes to complete. No credit is awarded for completion of a job aid. However, a certificate of completion is provided. You can narrow down the list of professional development offerings by using the search feature and filters on the left side of the page. I recommend doing this so you can see additional information about each course. For example, if I search for assistive technology, I not only get a list of courses and job aids on this topic, but I also see some tags that help me to know the type of credit that is offered, the areas of interest the course content is related to, if the course can be accessed through self-enrollment or if it requires pre-registration, and the target audience for the course. You'll see that this assistive technology course is listed twice. We offer it both as self-enrollment and as a pre-registration course. Self-enrollment courses are just that. Participants can enroll themselves at any time and complete the course at their own pace, within their chosen time frame. There are no requirements for when a self-enrollment course needs to be completed. Pre-registration courses are designed for early intervention professionals who want Pennsylvania Act 48. Act 48 credit is awarded to professional educators in Pennsylvania for the completion of continuing education. Those professionals need to complete a certain number of Act 48 hours every 5 years in order to maintain an active teaching certificate. For these courses, participants register to take a course in a particular month and must complete all course requirements by the last day of that month to be marked complete and receive credit. Now let's take a look at how you might use some of the course and job aid materials to enhance your curriculum. You may want resources to incorporate into existing classes or to make changes in the design or your program or change class assignments or requirements, or just to discover new approaches and emphasis that are available. Let's say you want to update or revise the class you offer in early childhood education by looking at the objectives and content related to families. Partnerships with families and communities is an indicator on the PA Early Childhood course syllabus rubric. There is a family page that I will share with you shortly, but for now, I'm going to go to one of our foundation courses. We have 5 foundations of early intervention courses. This one is on partnering to build family capacity. Let's say you're providing instruction on building family capacity. You might choose to enroll yourself in this course to see if you might change your content by using materials and activities from the course. Simply select Get Started and then scroll down to Enroll Me. This course will take about an hour or so for you to review. You'll notice that this course has 2 sections, one on a relationship-based approach and one on building family capacity. You might first take a look at one of the lessons to see how the content lines up with what you are covering in your class. This lesson on empowering families will give you a sense of what content typically looks like. This lesson on empowering families starts by looking at empowerment as a social process, the balance of power between families and professionals, and the information and supports families need to become more empowered. It takes the participant through a little vignette and asks them how they might support a family. Then, the same vignette is used to ask a question about how to support a family who's not English speaking. The next section on family preference looks at things like linguistic and cultural diversity and the resources and supports that families need. Participants have a chance to explore these resources and supports. For example, under economic supports, they might look at supplemental security income, Medicaid, and WIC. They might look at support groups and find out how to help families know more about support groups and get connected. At the end of the lesson, there's a summary and the user returns to the course page. What if you want your students to be able to work with families to identify their strengths and needs, as well as any family and community resources that will support them? You might decide to use this Identifying Family Strengths and Resources activity as a knowledge application assignment. In this activity, students are asked to reflect on what they have learned about identifying family strengths and resources to support child development, and are asked to select one of the assessment tools provided. They would then use the instrument when thinking about or talking with a family member with whom they partner. Based on what they know, they collect information and are able to then identify family supports and resources that exist and that are needed both within the family and in the community. For this activity, participants complete a questionnaire after they complete the assessment tool. You can see the questions that are asked in the questionnaire here. Of course, any of these materials or activities can be altered in any way that makes sense for the class or content you are teaching. Maybe you're interested in incorporating information to help your students understand how eligibility works for early intervention in Pennsylvania. Let's head back to the professional development page. I'll search for eligibility in the search feature on the left side of the page. You can see there are a number of different options. This one on early intervention eligibility in Pennsylvania is a job aid. You can enroll in this job aid to learn more yourself or see how this might be useful for your students. Remember, job aids only take about 15 to 20 minutes to complete. I'll select it. You can see that this job aid has a number of different topics, including infant toddler, Part C, early intervention, preschool or Part B, early intervention, resources to help participants understand the eligibility process, some case studies to help participants work through eligibility for a few different children. The job aid finishes up with a summary and some key takeaways. You might access this job aid to gather and incorporate resources and information for a lesson you are planning, or you might change course assignments and assign students to complete the job aid and provide you with their certificate of completion. As I mentioned earlier, we have a families page that has a number of resources you may find useful. Let's take a look. On the main families page, you'll find links to 3 other pages: Connect and Get Involved, Resources, and Important Forms. Right now, you'll also find some nice resources from the Fred Rogers Center on relationship-focused family engagement. Let's take a look at Connect and Get Involved. On this page, there are resources for families to help them link to other families, opportunities for leadership development for families, and information on advisory groups. On the resources page, families will find information on child development resources, information on community parent training and resource centers, as well as information that will help them navigate their early intervention experience. Under Important Forms, families will find the evaluation reports for both infant, toddler, and preschool early intervention, as well as the individualized family service plan and the individualized education plan, and their annotated documents to help families understand these plan forms better. Let's head back to the home page so we can take a look at the topic of interest pages. Topic of interest pages allow for easy discovery of new information about a range of topics, but also offer lots of resources for incorporation into classes or to help make changes in class content and assignments. Let's look at the Inclusion Topic of Interest page. All of our Topic of Interest pages are set up with highlighted resources on the left side of the page and resources that are more permanent listed on the right side of the page. The highlights on the left side are just that and will rotate about every 3 months. So if you see something in this section that you are interested in, it's a good idea to bookmark it for future reference. The items on the right side of the page will be there for a much longer period of time. These are resources we feel should always be available. One of the nice things about navigating our site is that when you are on any of our Topic of Interest pages, you can simply hover over the images at the bottom of the page and link out to another topic of interest. Inclusive practices are strategies and techniques that many teachers want to know more about and wish they had learned more about in their higher education classes and experiences. Let's say you need more information about these practices to incorporate into a class or ideas to use to make class changes. Let's say you want to have a discussion on the benefits of inclusion. You might pull out this Benefits of Inclusion infographic, which outlines the benefits of inclusion for all children, all families, and the community. You can see here that it is available in both English and Spanish. Or perhaps you want students to explore the myths of inclusion. This resource from Tash provides some great information for reflection and discussion. What if you are planning a lesson on the laws and policies for the inclusion of children with disabilities? You might go to these federal and state inclusion policy and guideline documents. There is a wealth of information here, and you'll see these 2 companion documents, which are policies around the inclusion of all children in early childhood programs. We'll take a look at the first one. You'll notice in the background section of this policy, it looks at the defining features of inclusion, access, participation, and supports. It also links you to a number of other resources that discuss the legal foundations for inclusion of children with disabilities in early childhood education programs. Sometimes topic of interest pages have interactive objects, like this one on Kara's Kit, which guides teachers through the process of making adaptations for individuals or groups of children who are experiencing challenges during their daily routines and activities. We won't have time to go through it now, but it is a fantastic resource, and I encourage you to explore it on your own. 5 courses on inclusive practices are also available, and you'll find all of the resources I've just described built into several of those course lessons and activities. Now let's move on to look at how you might use a few of the resources from our Dual Language Learners Topic of Interest page. Let's say you want your students to explore what they need to consider related to delays or disabilities when working with dual language learners. You might access or have your students access this short module from the IRIS Center on dual language learners with disabilities. It starts with a challenge in video format and then goes on to help participants walk through how they might handle the challenge. It provides perspectives and resources, and finally has a wrap-up and an assessment. Perhaps you want your students to include considerations for dual language learners when lesson planning. You might introduce them to the pre-K standards for English language development. As you can see, there are many other topics and resources and professional development opportunities here that you can explore for incorporating into classes or changing course activities or for discovery. In the future, we will be developing additional specialized webinars to explore some of these resources in more depth, but I also hope you will take some time to explore them on your own. Thank you for your time and attention. Hopefully, this has given you a taste of how you can use the resources and materials on the EITA portal to enhance your curriculum.